She's like, Michael, here. Jason, here. She's reading this. This bitch is reading this. She's like, Fabrizio? I was like, it's not Fabrizio! Yo, I fucking bro, I swear to God, all my veins, all this power came from my fucking solar plexus, and I yelled at that bitch with the fucking intensity of 1,000 suns. I was so mad, bro. What up? What's cracking, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Happy Wednesday. Sad Wednesday, because I ain't playing an NLBC, but it's okay. We're still going to have a good stream. Still going to enjoy it, make the best of it. Let's do a matchup chart for Sagat. Alright, so let's start off. Matchups. Matchups that I think Sagat is heavenly. I said heavenly. Or feels heavenly. Matchups that I think that he wins. Alright, let's put Sagat neutral for that, obviously, right? I'll put Oro unsure. Where's Akita at? I'll put Akita there for now. Maybe I'll decide something when I get closer, but first character off the bat, it's Zangeif. Why does Sagat have a heavy advantage against Zangeif? Well, the matchups where I say Sagat has a great advantage, I typically gauge it around his control and neutral. How hard is it for the characters to get around Fireball, to deal with your buttons, right? And how is their air to ground game? Can they introduce something in the air that makes my DPs get messed up? If not, if all three of those are checked off, I mean checked off in terms of like they struggle in those three departments, then Sagat's pretty much winning the matchup. All right, because even if they have some sort of V trigger thing that can help them, you know, come back or whatever, if I have the V gauge and I invest it accurately and invest my super accurately, then I can neutralize V trigger activations and, you know, I can weather the storm and get back to neutral where I dominate. You know what I'm saying? Zangief's option is, of course, to V trigger through fireballs, but you can bait it out pretty easily from certain ranges with high shot. Because the suck will miss. So knowing that, you can bait it out easily. You can punish it if they don't commit to the fully blocked version, because it's -6. If they pull you in and they don't do anything, it's -6. All right, naturally. If they do it from a really far range, though, it can hit you meaty because the hitbox expands later on in the active frames. So the later the active frames, the more it expands. So it might catch you later. Right? Because there's sometimes, if you ever notice with Zangief, he'll do V-trigger, and you sit still, and then you get pulled in later. It's because the active frames increase, and then it's pulling you in, and when it does that, he's actually plus. That's not good. We don't want that. So when he has V-trigger, I actually like to be closer, so that way if he does V-trigger, it's pretty much guaranteed that I get pulled in, and now he has to commit to full block or eat the -6 punish. Okay? What you also can do is you could just back up, right? And if he does the V trigger and you see him spin, you can just jump at him. All right, next matchup that I think Sagat has a heavy advantage in. Bruh, Dan, that shit is, oh my god, that shit is so free. Dan doesn't have the buttons. We checked off the buttons, right? We talked about buttons. We talked about normals, zoning. How does it get around the zoning? And does he have an air to ground game? If you don't really have those three, you can't get around my anti-airs, you can't get through my buttons, you can't get around my fireballs consistently or under my fireballs, through my fireballs consistently, Sagat's winning the matchup. And it's pretty, it doesn't matter what your V-trigger is at that point, you know what I'm saying? What do I do if Dan gets in? You V-reversal. You just V-reversal him to death. Because a lot of his pressure, his good pressure, starts off with heavies. Right? So, and you can react to his cancels into knee with light punch DP because it's airborne, so you'll actually be invincible and blow right through it. It's a very easy matchup. All right, you outrange him with pokes, so you don't even have to commit to fireballs. I just fireball when I want to frustrate him into taking a big risk, so you never really have to give up ground. And then occasionally sprinkle in your little tiger knees and stuff like that, just so he can't autopilot, you know, move forward, walk and block and stuff like that. Okay, this matchup is pretty easy. Another matchup where I say there is a heavy advantage is Ed. And even though he has the V skill too, where he can go through your fireballs, if you space it out, it can actually whiff in front of you. Alright? Because he has two versions of it. He has one that if he does it immediately, it doesn't have the range of the held version. But the held version, it's so long on startup that you could just DP it on reaction. The quicker version is -6 on block, so you can punish it pretty easily too. Okay? And we talked about limbs. Sagat's limbs, shit on Ed's. Ed, the only thing Ed really has going for him is stand heavy kick and sweep, which he'll throw out randomly to try to get crush counters and then get started from there. So if you place a lot of pauses and waits in your neutral, you end up just shitting on the character, to be honest. And then his V-trigger, the orb, the V-trigger 1, it's kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world. All right, so he can use it and kind of get this like corner push established from it, but it's not too crazy because a lot of Ed's pokes and his pressure are you can V reversal. Sagat struggles a lot against characters that you can't really V reversal against when he's cornered. But a lot of Ed's go-to pressure, his button into projectile and stuff like that, you can V reversal all of that. Okay, his hands, you can V reversal that. So you can get back to that spacing that you win at pretty easily. Okay, without taking much risk. Who else does Sagat have a great advantage against? I'll put Kage. I think this matchup is horrendous for Kage. Kage, only thing he really got going for him is that pressure. And let's check off the boxes again. He gets out poked. He can get kept out of the air pretty easily. Even though Kage has the air fireball, you know you could just stand heavy kick, and if he does air fireball, you can Kara heavy knee punish him. It's like, it's brain dead easy. It doesn't really require much thought. So you can Kara heavy knee him out of the air and then get Oki. So you're getting 100 damage off an anti here, corner carry, and you're getting Oki because of the heavy Kara knee buff, where they stay closer to you. Red Ranger, what's going on, man? You can outrange him. You can out fireball him because once he starts doing red fireballs, you can react and jump in on him. If he does a red fireball behind block stun, then it's like, okay, you can't really jump on him. But all you have to do is literally neutral jump the fireball and then react to the next red fireball. You just up forward on him, and then you get a jump in. All right. Or if he starts, what you could do too is if you're close enough, you could just medium punch DP through it. If you react to the startup frames of the red fireball, you can heavy high shot sporadically, and it's fast enough to catch him on the startup because he has a lot of startup on his red fireball, right? And then when he starts getting comfortable and thinking he could do medium and heavy red fireball, you can easily jump in on. That's a guaranteed jump in as soon as you see it. There's nothing he can do. The light one, there might be you got to be on point. You can still jump in on him though, but the medium and heavy is for sure a jump in punish. So when are they gonna do it? They're gonna do it when you start fireballing them, So when I fireball, if I high shot, I have way faster recovery, so I'm actually plus. So if I look and wait for the startup of the next fireball, as long as I've clashed my own fireball with his and I recover sooner, and I didn't block his fireball, right? As long as it's the light punch red fireball, right? The one hit. Now I can react to the next red fireball, and now I get all this damage and corner carry and whatnot, right? So he can't reliably dance in the fireball game with Sagat. What he has to rely on is his V-trigger game, right? Once he gets that, trying to just randomly throw it out there and try to catch you buffering pokes or throwing fireballs. But the thing is heavy high shot is so fast now, especially if he tries to react to fireball, he gets hit on the ascension of his V-trigger, right? When he's trying to jump up and stomp down, that V skill, he gets hit, okay? Because of the high shot, it's so fast, and it's traveling along off the ground, way higher off the ground than low shot. Low shot, he would just go over it, he'd hop over it and hit you. So that's where you would switch your fireball game against him. The only thing you'd have to be concerned about is if he does it super early before your fireball, or if he jumps. Right, both of which he has to premeditate. He has to do them premeditated. Gill, I wouldn't say Gill is heavy advantage. I say it's slight advantage. I think Gill can kind of fight Sagat. But, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Next, oh yeah, Kolin. I think this matchup is really bad for Kolin. Her V-trigger doesn't really mean anything, to be honest, against Sagat. Mainly because I don't need V-Trigger to beat her. I think characters that where you have to use V-Trigger to beat a character like this, it can suck because you don't want to use the V-Reversal or V-Shift her shit. But Sagat can just simply just wait and V-Reversal her out of her V-Trigger nonsense. And then he doesn't really give a shit. As long as you're V-Reversaling the right things, you don't want to V-Reversal the wrong things and then she parries you on reaction. It's very easy. You can easily anti her if she jumps and you stand heavy kick and she does the ice double jump. You might get hit, but you can still turn around and DP her. It's like the matchup is pretty bad. Her pokes, he out pokes her. His fireball is really hard for her to get around. It's just not a matchup where she can ever get comfortable until she gets V-Trigger, and then she's trying to rely on reacting to your fireball, right? But then now she has to learn a completely different strategy of yours if you have one for the V-Trigger game, which is now another realm of stress on the player because now you're playing at different ranges with different tools, right? So I think Sagat definitely has a strong advantage over her. Necalli, I think Sagat destroys Necalli. Same checkboxes, right? Outpokes him, fireball, frustrates the shit out of Necalli, and he can anti-air him out of the air so easily. Okay, it's pretty easy. The one thing Necalli has going for him is if he gets V-Trigger and then he tries to like dash in on Sagat, because I think Sagat has probably the weakest anti-dash game because it doesn't, him converting off of like a light attack, it's not truly consistent or rewarding compared to a lot of the cast, in a sense of like him getting Oki, right? Him getting Oki or him getting a lot of damage off of his lights. None of those things tend to happen without like very specific circumstances. So he neutralizes Necalli, right? Pretty easily, to be honest. The one thing you have to look out for is a Necalli that goes for a lot of crush counters, because the ranges that you typically want to press buttons, they will just retaliate stand heavy kick because they don't really have much of a choice. They're a charge character, they need to retain charge, but they still want to be active at the same time. So they're going to try to hit you with those crush counters, stand heavy kicks, stand heavy punch buffers, crouch medium punch buffers, right? To try to like whiff punish you or some stuff, especially after your block strings. Or they try to introduce the V skill, you know, the stomp. I would never recommend Necalli uses the vomit V skill because you could just Kara DP it easily, like just no brainer. All right, but if he does V skill, the stomp or whatever, not stomp, the ground pound. If he tries to do the ground pound, we call it Seismos because Viper and Street Fighter 4 is kind of similar. If he tries to do Seismos or ground pound, Sagat can just continuously manipulate his spacing, and Necalli doesn't get anything if he whiffs V skill. He doesn't gain meter. So if I just make it whiff and then I Tiger Shot, now he has to deal with that. I can slow fireball afterwards, and now he has to deal with the fireball. He can't V skill again. Alright? So occasionally sprinkling in Kara knees, dash ups, forward medium kicks will mess with the spacing of the Seismo. I think Lucia is pretty convincing. I think it's pretty convincing. She's like, she has like the fireball game to kind of annoy you in a sense, but she can't really keep up with Sagat. She really can't. Especially because of the variety in his speeds. She has to rely on timing it correctly. And it's very easy to just manipulate her with timing and introducing different spacing on your fireball, different speeds of your fireballs to mess with her preemptive clash, right? She has to like kind of feel the fireball speed. She can't react to your fireball speed and say, oh, he did fast, let me do this. Oh, he did slow, he did that. She has to kind of have this hunch in her head like, oh, I think Sagat's gonna do this. Okay? That's really it. Her slide is okay, but you could space it out pretty easily and you can whiff punish it. If she tries to slide at a certain spacing against your Tiger Shot, even your low, it'll whiff and you get stand light kick whiff punish. Alright? You can punish it on hit and on block if you're close enough. You can punish it on hit. It's not that great. That's not really going to be the tool that, you know, changes the matchup per se. At certain ranges, you have to be mindful of it, of course. But it's not game breaking. He outranges her, outzones her, and if she tries to jump, he can easily keep her out of the air. Her V-trigger doesn't really scare Sagat, you know? It's not the end of the world. He could just V-reversal it, he can block it, V-reversal, he can V-shift it. Mika's another one. Mika's Sagat's one of the few characters that can keep Mika out of the air regardless of if she does splash or if she does regular jumping. Because of his Kara heavy DP, he just obliterates her out of the air. So she has to start resorting to like praying that she gets into a range where if you try to heavy DP, it'll whiff, right? So she tries to do like the jump splash on top of your head and stuff like that. But when you're at those ranges, you just recognize what's possible and what is probable, and then you just adjust accordingly. So then you don't get upset, you don't get frustrated, and you already know in the back of your head, like, this is something I have to look out for at this specific range, that up close throw range jump approach that she might try to do to try to throw me off. Especially when you're cornered, she's not going to jump at you when you're cornered, right? So Sagat easily outpokes her. Mika is one of those characters where she relies on you to overextend, to be very active. That's how Mika wins. Mika wins against players that are very active because she does a lot of buffering and preemptive stuff because her pokes aren't really confirmable. They're not bufferable. She doesn't have really much cancels, so she can't really rely on like whiff punishing as much as most characters can. So what she likes to do is a lot of spacing traps and stuff like that, spacing manipulation. That's why Fudo plays her, and he does so well with her because he understands that aspect of fighting games really well. So Mika's very preemptive. So a character like Sagat, where his limbs are very, very like long, right? He has great reach, great retractable hurt boxes, and then he has that awesome fireball game where she can only really jump, or she can without meter, she can only jump or slide underneath with heavy slide. But there's a certain range where if you throw Tiger Shot and she tries to slide the next Tiger Shot, it whiffs in your face and you can punish it easily. Alright? So they're like these dead zones in these matchups. Typically, all of these characters that are in the heavy advantage column, that Sagat can play at ranges and completely neutralize their play. Alright? So it requires like experience. And because if like some player, let's say like somebody just picks up Sagat and then tries to use Sagat to counterpick Kolin, it might not be easy, right? Because there are little nuances in zoning and understanding player habits and tendencies and rotations that you probably need to be aware of. Otherwise, you might get frustrated at the behavior of your opponent. But once you've established all these skills and you can use them as strengths, then you start to notice like, wow, this matchup is so simple. All right. It's kind of like when a punch becomes a punch again. You learn all the techniques, and then you forget about the techniques. When she gets V-Trigger, when Mika gets V-Trigger, she can react to your Fireball. That's the only real threat you have to worry about. And if she reacts to your Fireball, like with EX shooting Peach. Alright, that's something she can do. That's something to just be mindful of. Those are her only real anti-Fireball approaches. Oh, and charged heavy kick. But charged heavy kick, you can bait that really easy. She has to commit to it. She has to know you're gonna Fireball, or even then, you actually have to react to her doing it. Because her stand heavy kick charges take so long that you have to throw the Fireball basically like on reaction to her doing it. Right? But if you throw high shot, it beats it. High shot hits her right out of that shit. Right? So she doesn't really have that luxury. Another matchup. I would say Zeku. I think this is a heavy advantage for Sagat. Reason being that the Fireball game is hard for Zeku to get around in both forms. Old Zeku can't really keep up with Sagat in the zoning game. He could try, but the heavy shots are just so fast, and they get to him fast, closer and closer every interaction. You know what I'm saying? So he's more likely to get hit by the Fireball the longer he plays the zoning game because of the advantage that I have. Right? Young Zeku, what he has going for him is, of course, the speed and trying to overwhelm you. But the thing about Young Zeku is that he's easily whiff punishable. And then Sagat's stand heavy kick pretty much whiff punishes everything Young Zeku does, right? He can outpoke him. He can keep him out of the air pretty easily. The only thing is you got to be mindful that Young Zeku's jump arc is a little bit weird, like Kage's. So you just got to stand a little bit further away. And if you are close, you got to make sure that you're doing crosscuts. That's basically it for his aerial approach. For his anti-fireball game, he has Hazanto. He has V-Trigger 2 is typically what's played now in that matchup meta. So V-Trigger 2 is the way to go for sure. That way they can react and try to catch your extended limb on the fireball recovery. Yeah, even then that could still get baited out because if you have enough block stun from a low shot and you high shot, you'll retract before he can actually hit you with the V-Trigger on the recovery frames of your high shot. Your old Zeku's gonna try to zone you. It's not really gonna work. They're gonna go to Young Zeku and try to go ham. That's basically like the flow chart. Old Zeku might try to like be random with EX flips because it could go through projectiles, but you just air to air it. Anytime you see yellow, if you see the orange glow and he's in the corner, just jump back air to air it. Nothing he can do. There's nothing he can do. He has to take that. Maybe Fong. I don't know. I think I might put Fong here because the thing about Fong is high shot pretty much blows up his poison trap. You know, the carpet. You could blow it up pretty easily. And then on top of that, he can't do up balls. You can hit him with the fireball. All right. He relies on EX meter to have some sort of influence on the matchup. But aside from that, when he doesn't have meter, he has to commit to a lot of preemptive stuff like command dash, right? But when he does command dash, you can bait it out and whiff punish it pretty easily. It's when Fong gets in that it might be a little tricky. That's when the matchup is like kind of rough. But if you have meter, you can EX DP through all of his carpet trap attempts, even in the corner. You can beat him pretty easily. I think the most important thing for a Sagat player when you play Fong is how do you stop the coward crouch. So what I do is I backdash and then I whiff punish it. Alright, so you got to do that. You have to backdash and whiff punish it. Or if you see him doing it because he's trying to go underneath your fireballs, you Kara DP it. When you Kara heavy DP it, now they're like the one thing that they had to give them some sense of rhythm in the fireball war, they lose confidence in it. So now they have to go back to that preemptive risky style of play with command dash, up ball, EX command dash, right? So when you see all of that, you can just basically read it. So when he gets EX bar, I tend to play closer. So that way when he tries to do like the up ball or whatever, you know, I can like potentially throw him out of it, or I just block it and then it's not as scary because he's just right in front of me. Like there's nothing to be afraid of. You know what I'm saying? So neutral jumping Fong is really good too. You can get a lot of damage off of that option. So that's something to be mindful of. Okay. So that concludes the heavy advantage. I think that would be it for the heavy advantages. All right. So let's talk about the slight advantages. So slight advantages, I would say... Oh, actually, I lied. I got to put Akuma here. So the reason why I would put Akuma here in heavy advantage is because Sagat does a lot of damage. All right. In this matchup, if you use V skill 1, Akuma gets annihilated. Because if he tries to approach with like an air fireball game, which is like one of his saving graces, typically when he gets out footsied or out zoned, trading medium punch V skill DP is outrageous damage. It is like scary ass damage. Because you got to remember, Akuma only has 900 health. Sagat has 1025 health. Not only do I have 1025 health, I also do 130 damage if DP doesn't hit deep, right? With V skill DP. But his air fireball does like 60 damage or something like that. So it's absurd. Like that trade, you take that all day and you kill the Akuma for doing it. Doesn't matter. All right? You do that shit over and over and over again. All right? Limbs, Sagat destroys Akuma in the footsies battle. Akuma has to resort to preemptive play a lot of the times to try to condition you to want to press buttons. Or to stop pressing buttons, rather, so then that way he can use his mobility to get in and out of ranges. Or he tries to commit to his own pokes at the end of your block strings, namely stand heavy punch. So stand heavy punch is the main Akuma tool to use in that matchup. But the thing about stand heavy punch is that you can whiff punish it with crouching medium punch. And if you whiff punish with crouching medium punch easily, you know what that means? You get Tiger Knee. Alright, and now you're getting corner carry, fireball meaty, V skill. Alright, because you know most of these guys are not going to quick rise against Sagat. They don't want to deal with that shit. Alright, so you can body him pretty badly. Oh, is it 40 damage? That's even worse. I didn't even know it was 40. I thought it was 60. Okay, but you'll take a little bit of damage because of the counter hit from your DP. So it's gonna be like 58, 60ish or something like that. Alright. So air to ground, Sagat can obliterate Akuma in the air. As soon as he gets a meter, Akuma jumps. It's game over. Even with V-Trigger, he can EX DP right through the V-Trigger air fireball. Another thing, too, is, you know, the whole guessing game of, like, heavy kick, flip, palm, or throw? Heavy punch DP beats both of those, because heavy punch DP is invincible to throws, and it's invincible to aerial attacks. So if he does that, you just smoke him. See, that's why I wish they had a DP that went through projectiles completely, too, because then I would fuck Falk up, right? But of course, it doesn't have that. I have to rely on EXDP, which kind of sucks. Now, Mac, when Sagat, if he does air fireball, you're reacting to the air fireball. you're not going to get counter hit damage off of that because he's already going to be active. And you're going to try to hit him early because if you do it too late, you'll get hit on the ground. So you want to be active already. So that's why it'll be less damage. Okay, so slight advantage. I'll say Abigail. I think Sagat against Abigail is... if Sagat had a better Oki game, then I think this matchup would be a heavy advantage, to be honest. The only thing that gives Abigail that chance is that he has enough health and enough chances to get up. You know what I'm saying? So that's what kind of is like his saving grace in a sense. Is like the reward off of Sagat hitting him is not that great, but Sagat can still body him pretty well. So even with his pokes, stand medium kick, it saves Sagat so much because Sagat can just react to pretty much every poke in whiff punish with stand medium kick. The only thing that might be tricky is like crouching jab, but if you block it and let it push you away, then there's nothing to be afraid of. You can actually whiff punish it with stand medium punch too, all right? Because remember, it has a long animation. He has to like do this, right? So it's a very like telegraphed animation for a light attack. So it's kind of like a medium in that sense because of how slow it is from, you know, startup to recovery. Air to ground game, right? So Abigail, one of his strengths is the whole idea that he has the very narrow jump, right? So his jump is typically like, it's like this and he kind of falls down, whereas traditionally most characters, you know, when they jump, they're kind of going more out like this, right? So Abigail, he goes really high, but he goes very close to his original position, right? So where he lands in his original position, it's a very short distance, okay? But the thing about Sagat is you have Kara DP. So Sagat can be very far away, and he sees Abigail jump, and he gets Kara DP. Like, it's nothing. It's very easy. And it's even easier now because they buffed the heavy punch hitbox for his heavy DP. They increased the pixels by like a couple on the first 2 frames of active frames, okay? So it's even easier to hit further away from Sagat, all right? So he has a super slow jump, 8 frames before he leaves the ground, and then it's like the total animation is really slow. But the thing that messes people up is that people try to give him so much space because they're trying to dodge his buttons that they actually strengthen his jump. So you got to remember, typically when you take something, you give up something, right? So you're taking away his pokes by being far away, but you're also giving him that additional strength of now a jump, empty jump mix-up, okay? But Sagat can neutralize that pretty consistently. Another thing is when Sagat, when Abigail whiffs a button, like he whiffs like a heavy attack, or he whiffs anything crazy, right? Sagat can easily whiff punish with forward heavy kick, which is crazy. Like, imagine whiff punish with forward heavy kick. If Sagat could do that all the time, that would be amazing, but that shit's mad slow. It's 16 frames, it's slow as shit. So he can whiff punish and then get stand light kick, EX high shot, Kara knee, and he's doing like 270 damage off of a whiff punish with Oki. It's kind of nuts. All right, and then mind you, you're sprinkling damage over time with fireballs. When you play that matchup, the main thing you got to be concerned about is the EX nitro punch. That's going to be like the thing that can fuck you up. All right, so you got to be very careful of his meter management. His V trigger, I'm not scared of his V trigger. You can EX DP and body it if he tries to do it. V trigger 2 is the one that Abigail's are mainly using now, right? If you see him doing, you know, unblockable, you can do the unblockable timing delay V-shift option select. So if he does level 1 or level 2 V-trigger charge, right, you just block it, but then you time your V-trigger so that way if he does level 3, you V-shift punish it. Alex, I'd say slight advantage to Sagat. Alex doesn't really have much leeway in neutral. His crouching medium punch is like his best friend, but that's easily whiff punishable. Stand heavy kick, you can punish that on block. Sagat's fireball is really, it can be very annoying for Alex to deal with without charge or without committing to jumping. So Sagat can keep him out pretty well just off of his pokes and fireball game alone. When he gets meter, you have to be mindful of the aerial approach because he can just stomp on reaction and then hit you pretty much full screen. But you can bait that out. You know, you can easily bait that out. What I like to do is I like to do Kara EX knees because they see the yellow and then they think, oh, Zaf is trying to do fireball. But then they do it and then they end up getting hit by the EX Kara knee because they thought I was throwing fireball. right? And then now they're getting hit 160 damage. They're getting sent to the corner. And now you have adjusted frame advantage because you're hitting them technically a little bit higher in the air. So you have more frame advantage on landing. So you might be able to dash up and be like maybe -1, maybe -2 instead of being -5. Okay? And you're a good distance away. It's not like you dash and be in throw range. You dash up just to close the gap, you know, and sacrifice that advantage just for the positioning. Okay. Another matchup I would say is, I'd say Birdie is a slight advantage, especially with the buffs to Tiger Shot, Birdie's nerfs to Bullhorn. If he doesn't have meter, Sagat can do pretty well in that matchup. Once he gets meter, though, it gets a little bit tricky, mainly because he can EX Bullhorn from very far away. But if you do have V-Trigger, you can do like, you know, Fireball option selects on purpose, right? So that way, if he tries to like absorb it, you know, like with high shot, if he's crouching, he just crouches underneath it, right? But if he absorbs it and you're pressing V-Trigger with the Fireball, he stands up, Fireball hits, the game registers a contact, and then it registers your V-Trigger activate. So you'll see me do that a lot in that matchup, okay? Pokes wise, Birdie can fight Sagat, but Sagat can fight Birdie. So it's more of those like war of attrition type things. Who is more disciplined with their pokes and their spacing? Sagat could punish sweep pretty easily, especially with these nerfs. I mean, Sagat could already punish it before with heavy punch DP every time, but now it's even easier to punish it. So Sagat can just, he can stop that. He can whiff punish all of his pokes. Stand medium punch is mad easy to whiff punish, especially now because of stand heavy kick. Sagat's best whiff punish, in my opinion, is stand heavy kick. The only downfall is that it doesn't hit crouching. But even then, it's still good to throw it out there sometimes. Like against low forwards, you'll see me do that. Because if I have a feeling a low forward is coming, I'll catch the low forward with the first hit of the stand heavy kick and force stand them. And then if I have V-Trigger, I V-Trigger activate. And then, you know, I can just V-Trigger, or I can forward heavy kick into V-Trigger, or I can Kara DP and all that jazz, okay? With V-Trigger, V-Trigger 1 with Birdie is the way to go for sure. Because of the armor property. So you do have to be more mindful of meter. And I would suggest using more EX for knees and for EX fireballs, all right? Because he's not really going to want to do the Bullhorn game, all right? So that's how I would like kind of approach the meter management in the matchup from my perspective there. I would say Cammy. I think Sagat has an advantage slightly against Cammy. I think Sagat can out-poke her. He can out-footsie her. He can keep her out of the air very easily. At least I can, because of Kara DP. The ranges where she tries to do fake like, you know, dive kick stuff to try to bait your DP, Kara DP punishes it. And if she does a regular jump in, DP will you'll Kara and you'll just DP her, right? So it's pretty easy. Like there's a lot of recovery on the grounded dive kick too. So when she does it off the ground, you can actually, you've already mentally committed to Kara DP. So then when you see it, you just hold forward a little bit longer to make sure you're closer to her, and then you just DP, and her hurt box is extended, so it'll be even easier to hit her. You know what I'm saying? The projectile against Cammy, especially now, it's way easier to fireball against Cammy. Cammy doesn't have the frame 1 EX projectile anymore. Now it's frame 3. So now high shot, like against Karen, actually it's even worse against Karen, because Karen I think is frame 5. But EX high, like regular high shot against Cammy now is ridiculously powerful, because if she tries to react with EX spiral arrow, she's gonna get hit. All right. So, and on top of that, like Koji was saying, you get hit by it, you just swap sides, right? She might get some Oki or whatnot, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, it's not the end of the world. So you can poke her out really well. You can whiff punish or stand medium kick easily. I whiff punish stand medium kick easily, right? Ask Danslip. Danslip was like, yo, this shit feels impossible. Whiff punishing it every time with stand heavy kick. So I'm getting 80 damage every time on a 900 health character, every single time, right? She's not 925 anymore, right? She's 900. I think she's 900. Right, but you can stand heavy kick it every time, Hoji. Every time you see it, you're just like heavy kick, brainless. I don't even have to think about it. Mind you, that's the button, Hoji. Like when you think of that matchup, you're like, yo, that's the button that everybody complains about. They're like, yo, this shit is terrible, right? But then it's like, oh shit. And the funny thing is, let's say I fuck up, right, and I mistime it or something, right? I don't know. Let's say I mistime it, and I do it early. I kind of like flinch, but we're both doing it at the same time. Priority. My first hit of stand heavy kick will hit her as a whiff punish and beat her because priority, and then the second hit hits her in the head. So I get 90 damage, which is pretty funny. Actually, a little bit more because of the priority counter hit. So it'll be like 92 damage, 95 damage, because the first hit's only 20 damage on the stand heavy kick. All right. So yeah, and of course, like you're solving multiple options with that stand heavy kick, because if she tries to jump, she can get hit by it, right? And I can whiff it and still DP. It's not the end of the world. You know, if I throw it out there sometimes sporadically, but even then, I'm talking about even being disciplined. I'm just like reacting with it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, so she's still 925. Damn, I thought they nerfed her health. All right, so I prefer V skill 1 in that matchup because when I DP her, I want to send the fuck away from me so I can V skill again, and then I want to make her think about what she just did to me. Like, how stupid are you to try to jump at me? Are you dumb? And I'm really make her pay for that. Another matchup I say slightly Sagat's advantage would be Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Joke's on you. I would say Honda. Honda, I'd say slight advantage. I'd say it'd be more convincing if you could consistently punish forward heavy kick. But because you can't, it's a little bit fucking annoying. All right, it's a little bit annoying. I'm not gonna lie. But Sagat outpokes Honda. He keeps him out of the air pretty easily. If Honda tries to neutral jump a fireball preemptively, forward heavy kick, DP, 220 damage every time. It's pretty nuts, right? It's pretty nuts. Like it's like 210, 212 because of scaling, but it's a lot of damage for a non-V skill DP, right? Because forward heavy kick does 90. And then that DP is 130 naturally, so it's like 210-ish after scaling, but it's pretty nuts. It's pretty strong. He can keep him out of the air, pretty easily, pretty consistently, and Honda getting around fireballs, good fucking luck. So without meter, he has to resort to one of two things. He has to obviously neutral jump preemptively and try to hit you on your recovery, which I could fuck up obviously, right, by changing my rhythms, or jump over, which I can pretty easily. I could easily fireball trap Honda. It's not the end of the world. Or he tries to do preemptive V skill and cancel V skill into headbutt. But the thing about V skills, he has to do it preemptively. So if I see him do that, I get guaranteed forward heavy kick with punish. All right, so it's pretty bad. Honda's just doesn't really have a good time. The only saving grace for this character is his damage and you know, the forward heavy kick into V-trigger, like his activate and stuff like that. That shit's mad annoying. But aside from that, I would put the matchup at heavy advantage, but I'll put slight just because of the volatility of neutral based around forward heavy kick. That's basically what I would say. Another matchup where Sagat might have slight advantage, I'd say, is Gill. Gill, because of parry, he can, you know, make you consider, you know, you can't really just always throw fireball mindlessly, right? I have to think about that because I don't want to give him the V-trigger. Pokes, Sagat wins. Anti-air ability, Sagat is winning consistently. There's nothing Gill can do to surprise me. Knees are very telegraphed, and you guys know I react to pre-jump frames. So when I see a certain style of ground movement to air, I already know it's knee. So I already calculate, okay, what knee did he do? Oh, he did the light one. He's trying to fake me. Kara DP. Oh, he did medium or heavy. Just regular DP. All this stuff happens in my head automatically because I just trained it, okay? Regular jumps okay. It's not the scariest. Nothing crazy. It doesn't have any trajectory altering moves in the air. So it's very simple, okay? Fireball game, just the parry is the only thing you really have to worry about. But if he tries to get into a fireball style war with Sagat, heavy high shot will catch him very quickly. All right, he has a lot of recovery too, and you can react to Gill's fireball with EX high shot. And you know, because of the heavy knee buff, that's very significant. That's a buff that I was talking to Sanford today. I was telling him, like, yo, I appreciate that buff more and more by the day because of how much it's changed his fireball. You know, because if he hits you with EX high shot, he's getting Kara heavy knee and then getting Oki afterwards. All right, which is pretty game changing. All right, I mean, of course, I'd like it if it was like that all the time, but it's okay. Like, I guess it's better than not having it, right? Another matchup, I'd say G. The reason for this is because I think that, again, if you understand Sagat's normals and his tool set, stand heavy kick with punishes everything G can do. It's so bad, right? You can whiff punish everything he can do. You can outrange him pretty easily. You can punish his sweep on block pretty easily. You can keep him annoyed and under your influence with your fireball because he has to now commit to looking for it and V-skilling, or he has to try to EX, you know, pinwheel over it, right? Which is very, you can easily bait it, and since it hits airborne, you can DP it on reaction no matter how late you see it. Okay, when you see it, you're like, oh, that's pinwheel. I'm gonna just heavy DP. He snipes him right out of the air because it hits in the air. If it hits on the ground, it's different. Like Alex's stump hits on the ground, so I can't do that consistently. Right? I can't rely on heavy DP. I have to use medium punch DP and hope that I'm invincible by the time he hits me on the ground. But because G is hitting me in the air, he is airborne, I use that invincibility of the light punch or heavy punch DP, and I just trash him. All right? But you want to use heavy because heavy goes further. All right? So you might as well just use heavy. His V trigger, I'm not scared of his V-trigger, to be honest. Like, I used to be, but I realized, like, all I gotta do is just wait it out. You know what I'm saying? And you can fuck him up pretty easily, to be honest. I don't think his V-trigger is that scary against Sagat, because I don't need V-trigger in the matchup, so I could just V-reversal him off of me. You know what I'm saying? And if you wait, you know, you want to V-reversal his stuff late, because he doesn't you know, just commit to specials without canceling the V-trigger, because he doesn't want to be punishable. So he'll cancel into something else. So you wait for the second cancel, so you're depleting even more V-gauge. You know what I'm saying? So you wait for him to do the cancel, and then wait for the startup of the next thing and V-reversal that. So that way he's depleting his V-gauge even faster. And when you return to neutral with G with no V-trigger, it's curtains. What is he gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So I've been comfortable in that matchup. Of course you can lose any of these matchups, right? If anybody can win on any given Sunday, like, it's possible. But especially if you're not sharp. But I'm really comfortable in this matchup. I don't even think I have to play 100%. You know what I'm saying? I'll say for his fireball, Guna was asking about the fireball. G's fireball's okay. It's you know why his fireballs doesn't mean shit in this matchup? Did you know there's a range if you back up, right? And he has level 2 fireball. If he has level 1 fireball, is like, I think, better, ironically, for him trying to keep up in the zoning. But like, if I have meter and he has level 2, it's not good, because if I back up, I can react to his fireball with EX high shot, and I get hit by fireball. Who gives a shit? I'm standing. He gets knocked down and he loses his presidential level. All right. So I also then have advantage because of that, because of the increased juggle height of EX high shot. So he's in the air longer, so I have more time to recover, and I'm not getting knocked down. All right. So I just will go back and I'll purposely trade it, and I'm just like, whoop. All right, let's go. Okay. It's really good. It's really strong. Level 3, if you don't know, you can react jump in. Every character in the game can react jump in to level 3, like, so fucking easily. But people don't think about that. So there's a greater risk. It's even worse to zone with level 3. It's just hard for certain characters like Zangeif to get into the range to jump punish it. So they're so far away that they can't really walk and block it, you know what I'm saying? So it's harder for them. That's where the struggle comes from. Next, I would say Karin, he has a slight advantage over. I think that Sagat can keep her out. He can zone her pretty well. He can whiff punish her pretty well. The only thing that's troubling in the matchup is when she gets EX bar, but even then, it's not the end of the world. Okay, he can keep her out of the air pretty easily. He can whiff punish her. He can fireball and influence and dictate the rhythm of the match. The only thing you have to really look out for, which Punk is the only player that really does it, is like being mindful of your button sequencing during block stun, to where she can like try to whiff punish you with stand medium punch, right? That's where Punk's like insane reactions come into play. But even then, I can still manipulate that strategically, you know what I'm saying? So it's something that you still have to, you can't rely on it, you still have to evolve the meta beyond that, you know what I'm saying? So it's nothing that's like set in stone, like, oh my god, Karen can win because of this one tactic. Like, no, if I take that away, we return back to Sagat being at advantage anyways, you know what I'm saying? So without meter, she has a hard time just establishing anything. And then, you know, Sagat does a lot of damage too, so if I hit her, it's like Jesus. Next, I would put Ken. His walk speed buff is pretty good. His DP buff is pretty good, but the DP buff doesn't really change anything, right? And for the Sagat matchup, the walk speed buff definitely helps, because he can get into the range of low forward a lot easier, and then he can like hit confirm it. So I guess that the heavy punch buff does help there, because now his walk up low forward pressure is a lot better. But stand light kick is one of the hardest things for Ken to deal with, because it's a 5-frame poke that has great reach. It's harder. You can't really whiff punish it. You gotta wish punish it. You gotta kind of hope that you hit it, right? So you kind of just throw that out there when you feel like he's getting into that walk up happy state, and then when he starts looking for that, or he tries to, you know, preemptively counter it or some shit, that's when you start whiff punishing him, or you start throwing fireballs to further irritate him. If he tries to go to the sky, Sagat can keep him out of the air pretty easily. Sagat's actually one of the only characters, only tall characters can do this. I don't know if you guys know this, but if Sagat blocks EX Air Tatsu, he can DP in between it. Did you guys know that? I remember I showed Big Bird that. He was like, what the fuck? That was years ago. So, like, if you block the EX Tatsu, you could just DP it in between it, which is crazy, right? So there's a gap in between it, because remember, he's hitting you airborne. When I was thinking about that, I was like, yo, I remember I let go of the stick and I got hit one time, and I was like, what the fuck? There's a gap in between this? And I was like, wait a minute. It's because Sagat's tall. Oh, okay, wait a minute. So what if I deep, boom, 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 and then bam? Yeah, you could regular DP it. So he doesn't, his V trigger 2 is his saving grace. That's the thing that he needs. And because it's 2 bars, it's something you have to consider. But I will say this. If you use Tiger Knees in places where you place Fireball, you will frustrate the shit out of the Ken player. You know why? Because they're thinking you're gonna Fireball, and then they see Tiger Knee, but Tiger Knee is a hitting attack. It's not a projectile. And his V-trigger doesn't have anti-air properties. Alright? So he gets hit out of his V-trigger when you try to Tiger Knee him, as long as you're active. Oh yeah, I haven't tried a V-shift punisher. That's true. I haven't thought about that. Because I found that like season 4, early season 4, I believe. Okay, so V-trigger 2 is something you have to consider. So when you do throw fireballs, you want to make sure you're throwing them up close and you're not throwing them in block strings. Because if you throw them in block strings, that's when they're like looking for it. They're like, all right, yeah, let me see. If you're gonna do it, you want to make sure you hit them from the low forward into fireball. Or when you do crouching medium punch, make sure you're doing it like a little bit closer than max range, so it's a guaranteed fireball string into heavy shot, so that he has to eat it. Can't do anything about it. All right. Sometimes too, I'll do weird shit, like I'll button and then I'll whiff a stand light kick. Or I'll button, and then I'll jump back. Something that makes them kind of like flinch. They're like, what the fuck was that? And then they press the V trigger, and then now they've lost the V trigger, or whatever. I can get like EX high shot from far away, Kara knee punish, or maybe dash up. If the presence of mind is there, I could, dash up and punish them or whatever, right? Okay. So next, I would say Laura. All right, Laura is a character that Sagat has slight advantage over. It would be absolute domination over this bitch if I had Oki. Honestly, that's really it. If I had Oki, I would thrash Laura all the time. But because we return to neutral, it gets a little tricky when she gets meter. When she doesn't have meter, I think Sagat destroys her. I don't give a shit if it's item. I don't care. He agrees. Like, the matchup's hard. When she has no meter, Sagat destroys her in footsies. He can fireball her to death. He can easily keep her out of the air. It's not hard. And he does mad damage when he anti-airs with V-Skill 1, right? So he can fuck her up. He can walk up fireball trade with stand heavy kick, Kara DP. Mad damage, right? So you can really body this character. It's once she gets meter, that's the tricky shit, is how do you fight her with meter? So that's something I'm learning to master, but I'm getting close to the solution. All right, I'm getting very close to it. It relies on getting that bar, and then she wants to back up, right? She wants to back up and then do EX shoulder. But then that same strategy I talked about, EX knees, that's where you would place that. You see what I'm saying? And make them start to hesitate. So even if you don't hit them or whatever, it's now something they have to consider, right? When they see orange or yellow, they're like, is this fireball or is this? You see what I'm saying? And her V-trigger, Sagat, he could V-trigger, he could V-reversal. He doesn't really need a V-trigger in this matchup. He doesn't need it. 3-bar V-trigger. I use V-trigger 1 all day just for the 3-bar V-trigger. And on top of that, if the damage from V-trigger 1 off whiff punishes and stuff like that is just amazing. So also if I'm outside of EX command grab range and she sees fireball but it's V-trigger, she might EX elbow and get hit by multi-hitting fireball. And then I can get my conversion and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Sagat can definitely body her. When she gets V-trigger, she is a gorilla, but it's not the worst. Where we got to get better as like players against Laura specifically is maintaining the range to punish her clap. Like if she does clap and you're at a range where you could just go underneath it, like she can't do that. That's what we got to get better as players. But the thing is, when she has V-trigger, your natural tendency is to create space because you're not comfortable. With Laura, yeah, honestly, Sagat, I just think he has slight advantage. It would be more significant if he had Oki, because the volatility of the character, you have to deal with the V-trigger nonsense. But you just want to practice being comfortable being close to this bitch, to be honest. So, yeah. Okay. I'd say Sakura, slight advantage. Sagat outpokes her, out-fireballs her. She has to do charged fireballs, but the thing about charged fireballs, she has to do it further away. It's telegraphed because of the distance, and I can Kara DP it on reaction. Alright? So, even if I do get hit, if I have V-Skill 1, I actually blow through the fireball. So that's something that I gotta remember to keep in mind, is when she has that, there's like a longer hit stop invulnerability with V skill DP, so you can blow through fireballs and actually pass right through it, unlike the regular DP. All right, so that situation, I don't have to really worry about a trade with the charged fireballs, which would be like a little bit more significant because she can do pretty good damage with the charged fireballs. Remember, it's hitting you a DP counter hit state, right? And it's fully charged, hitting twice, so damage is Sagat does have more health than her, more stun, so that does help. But I'd rather just not even take that trade, right? So I might as well skill 1 through it. He can keep her out of the air pretty easily. Stand heavy kick, bodies her shit. If she tries to jump Tatsu, you can stand heavy kick and still punish her on the other side pretty easily. So there's that. He can out poke her, out fireball her up close, right? Her V triggers are pretty strong. That's where the saving grace for Sakura is in her V triggers. But if you manage the meters accordingly, you'll be able to neutralize her paths to activation, or at least reduce the significance of how she activates. All right, her back walk speed is not the end of the world. I don't really care too much about it because I'm controlling the neutral. I don't need to pressure her. I don't need to poke her, right? It's when she's engaging me. She has to engage me at some point because she can't keep up with the fireball war without charging, right? So she has to be further away or she has to come into me. That's why when you watch Sakura players play me, they come towards me because they know they can't keep backing up because I'm going to corner them and I'm going to punish the charged heavy punch. All right, the charged fireball, my bad. All right. Another one, I would say Seth. So I think Seth slightly loses to Sagat. Sagat's one of the few characters that can actually whiff punish the Tatsu on whiff with Kara DP. So, you know me, I fucking do that all the time, right? So as soon as she whiffs, it's like, you gotta hold that, Seth. Alright. Seth tries to jump Tatsu, mix up, stand heavy kick, bodies the regular jumping. Kara DP blows up both simultaneously. Okay? It's very easy. I can out-poke her easily. Stand meter kick gives Seth a super hard time. Seth has to play so preemptive with these very short, stubby limbs, so the spacings that they play at, it's a lot easier, right? Then Hoji, like Hoji said, I forget about the damage. I'm not even thinking about the damage, right? Seth, 900 health. Sagat, 1025 health, and does insane damage off of anti-hurting you if he crush counters you. Okay? Insane amounts of damage. So with that in mind, it's like, if I hit you, and if I hit you with V trigger 1, good night. Right? Seth has the V trigger 2. Okay, that's great. Who cares? But at the spacings that you're going to play at, it's not going to be easy for Seth to really activate that. You know what I'm saying? It's still a good V trigger. Don't get me wrong. Probably one of the best 3 V triggers in the game. But it's not something that's going to scare me, to be honest, like that. Like, it's good, though. It's a really strong V trigger, so I'm not going to deny that, of course, right? And then on top of that, you have V shift, so you can just, like, kind of wait, you know, for that timing of when you know they're gonna try to go for the jump in, and you just V-shift. And now you're away from the explosion, and because you've given up the space, the problem is people try to V-shift too early, right? They try to V-shift too early when they're doing the bouncing, and then they get hit by, or whatever the fuck happens, right? But they still have to hard read that. So V-shift, it can help you a lot. But, you know, typically Seth players try to activate when you have V-trigger activated. But if I have the life lead, you know they need to make that comeback, right? So it's like, it's just not a matchup that strikes any sort of fear in me. Could be annoying, don't get me wrong, but you can punish Seth pretty easily for a lot of the stuff that they're trying to do. Urien, I'll put Urien here. I think that Sagat slightly beats Urien. Might even be more than slightly. I just feel really comfortable in this matchup. I think Sagat out-pokes Urien, out-fireballs him, of course, keeps him out of the air easily. The one thing that Urien has going for him is that he has the Oki. He can stick on top of you like a fly on shit, of course, right? But it's not the end of the world. If he has V-trigger, not really too afraid of it compared to, like, prior times, because now, if he gets hit, you know, if you hit him with a fireball, or if you hit him with anything during the startup of V-trigger, he loses it, right? So he loses it. On top of that, like, his EX tackle leaves him closer to you now, right? So there's not as much of a mix-up, okay? You can easily DP him out of EX knees in the sky. You can whiff punish him very easily. Low forward, you can whiff punish with sweep. That's how much recovery it has. You can get a knockdown and dash up. And Sagat has a dash up after sweep that covers both wake-ups against 4-frame characters, which is pretty good. It's pretty strong, okay? The thing that Urien would have to resort to is getting that V skill, trying to get it out as quickly as possible. Again, I'm not really scared of it. I like to high shot it sometimes and then make a mix up out of that. Am I going to keep high shotting it till it has 1 hit left? take all 3 hits, high shot it once, wait and block it, high shot it, jump at you. I try to mix them up in something that they want to do. That's something that I recommend you guys learn how to do, is mixing people up in situations that they think that they win. Okay, so same thing with like Ed's V-Trigger 1, Cody's EX Tornado. You make people uncomfortable. Hoji knows that, right? Hoji, when you throw that EX Tornado, it's like the mind game, like against most people, they kind of just like afraid of it. But if you learn to kind of make it your own mind game, it can fuck you up. It can fuck up your meter management, right? So that's where you turn weakness into strength, is when you've demonstrated something to somebody that's using a very strong tool that they've never seen before, or they're not used to seeing, because then it takes them out of their element, out of their comfort zone. Okay, so let's go into evenish matchups. Out pokes Ryu, out fireballs Ryu. He has the parry, but the thing actually, it's hard to say. Like I think when he gets V-Trigger, okay, I'll say it's evenish, because when he gets V-Trigger, he ends up turning into Sagat on steroids, like Sagat with a high shot that actually hits crouching. So I can't fireball his fireball back too often, because the fireball gets closer to my face, and then he can hit me out of the startup of that 3rd fireball or 2nd fireball that I throw, depending on when I neutralize the 1st fireball. Okay, Sagat does outpoke him, but Ryu has good mobility, good walk speed, good dash, so there's a lot to consider there. He can Tatsu through fireball, so he has an fireball game there. He can parry the fireball, build V-Trigger, right? So I have to do a lot more in that matchup than I would say like against a Gill because of those things. But I'd say it's even for sure. The V-Trigger makes it a lot more even because of that. If he didn't have that type of a V-Trigger, then I would say slight advantage Ryu. But because he has that somewhat of a comeback factor in the neutral, because Sagat is going to play in the neutral, where the V-Trigger shines, that's where that kind of comes into play, right? It wouldn't be a comeback V-Trigger against most other characters, right? Because it's like, who cares about Fireball or a DP? What if they don't jump or they don't do this? They just block and wait it out. But Sagat's gonna play in the neutral. You know what I'm saying? That's where his game revolves around. So it makes more sense for him to experience the strengths of that V-Trigger than most characters. I would say Blanka. Blanka's, I'd say it's an evenish matchup. Just because like Blanka's kind of annoying, and his mobility makes him very annoying. He has a lot of anti-fireball tools like the slide, the V-Trigger, right? V-Trigger, I think it's 2. Whichever the one that he can blow through the projectiles. He has pretty good pokes. His jumping and V-Skill game can be very annoying. So he can interrupt your rhythm just by how much of a nuisance he is in general. Okay, so he has the tools to combat your zoning game. And then you don't get rewarded from that Oki that we talked about before, right? Sagat does outpoke him, but his fireball game isn't consistent enough to rely on it all the time, in my opinion, because of the slide threat. And then, his jumping game can be very annoying because of the idea that he can rainbow ball, and he can do all these little trajectory altering things to kind of put you on tilt. So it's an evenish matchup, I would say so. Okay. Chun-Li, I'd say is even. I think it might be Sagat's favor, but the one thing I'm trying to figure out is the spacing to punish crouching medium punch consistently. If I figure that out again, because I did have it at one point, but I just don't, something's changed about it. Maybe it's just the projectile speeds and stuff, the fireball trap. But there was a spacing where if I did low shot, low shot, and she tried to crouch medium punch, I could whiff punish her, but I don't have the spacing down packed. Or I've labbed it, but I still don't have it in match, right? So this matchup, Chun-Li, of course, has the button. She has the speed, the mobility. She can irritate the shit out of you, but she can't really approach you from the air. Sagat will fucking obliterate her, because she can go around the fireballs pretty easily because of V-Skill 2, Hazancho, and the crouch medium punch. But the thing about Hazancho is it loses the high shot. So she can't really rely on that for reactions. She has to do it preemptively, so that's dangerous. Crouch medium punch, you can manipulate your spacing and cause it to whiff and bait her into doing it, right? And then you can fuck her up for it. So there is that. Her V-Trigger is not really game-breaking. It's nothing too crazy. When she gets super, of course, she can react to your fireballs pretty easily. But it's not the end of the world. I think it's a very evenish matchup. If Sagat got rewarded from Oki and knocking her down, then I'd say it would probably be Sagat's favor. But otherwise, nah, I think it's like evenish. Cody. I think Cody is evenish. Maybe slightly Cody. But it's not the end of the world, only because you can whiff punish Cody. You can have a fireball game with him to a degree. It's just the V-Skill 2 that's the nuisance. You know what I'm saying? The V-Skill 2 is what makes it kind of rough because he can react to your fireball, go underneath it, hit you, and if, let's say, you do Tiger Knee or you try to do a poke, he can dodge the pokes and the Tiger Knee. So that's kind of annoying. But it's not enough to say the matchup is like, oh my god, it's unbearable. Because Sagat can fuck up Cody. He can outpoke him for sure. And I think Sagat typically wants to play closer than what he usually does. So that way he blocks the V-skill, he can punish it. Alright? So I think Sagat has that. He has influence over the matchup. More than, you probably would believe if you watched it. Because it does feel like you're following behind Cody. You're letting Cody do things and then you're trying to punish it. But of course, you're playing against humans too, right? So there are some things about Sagat that can be difficult to deal with, like stand medium kick and stuff like that. Occasional step kicks are really good because if they try to do preemptive V skills, you can catch him on the startup and you can counter hit him. All right, before he cancels it. All right. Guile, I could put it evenish. Maybe slightly Sagat's favor because of the fireball war. I think that Sagat, his high shot is so strong against Guile that Guile at a certain point has to resort to letting it happen. He just has to give it up at far range because the high shot intensity is just too good. He has to try to do V-skill, but he can't reliably V-skill because if I see him V-skill during a fireball, I could dash up Kara DP on reaction. You guys see me do it a million times, right? So unlike the other zoning matchups, Guile can't really get into that rhythm as easily. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he is pretty good in this matchup. V-trigger 1 can be annoying, but high shot, if you play a mind game around the V-trigger 1, you can high shot, deplete it, wait, make a mind game out of it, whatnot. Sagat definitely outpokes Guile. Guile just has better mobility. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think he has better zoning. I think Ryu is harder than Guile, in my opinion, because of the Tatsu through fireballs, right? Like, Guile doesn't really have a way around fireballs, unless... What's up, Nobomb? Thank you for the raid, bro. He can get around fireballs if he does, like, V-skill 2 preemptively, the fireball over. But you can punish that with high shot. So, naturally, I think it is even, but I could see slightly Sagat. I don't know. It's something that I can kind of, like, toss and turn around. But I don't think Sagat loses the matchup. Not anymore, at least, because of the buffs that he got. Guile is a lot easier to whiff punish, too, mind you. And crouching heavy punch fucks Guile up. Like, it's so bad. Crouching heavy punch is the least utilized button in Sagat's arsenal. I think everybody, including myself, don't use it enough. I think that is the god tier button in his arsenal. I think it is his best button outside of like whiff punishing with stand heavy kick. Like just overall utilities, crouch heavy punch is amazing. It's -1 on block, guys, right? And if you crush counter with that shit, you get dash up twice, right? It's really good. I just don't use it enough, and I need to use it more. It's really strong. You build a lot of meter on block with it. On hit, you build mad meter, right? And if somebody jumps it, you can still DP. So it's really good. So maybe I'll put it like I'll put it even. I'll just put it even for now because I could kind of go back and forth with it. But this is a matchup of skill for sure. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely a matchup of skill. So there is that. Ibuki, I'd put even, mainly because I think Sagat has a hard time with punishing V-skill 1. I think that because he kind of wants to get into that preemptive flow, and Ibuki has a lot of weird options to make you get out of that. So you a lot of times feel like you're the one waiting for Ibuki, and that's not really too good because then she can get started. EX air kunai is really fucking annoying if I don't have EX, or if I'm not playing offline and I can DP with medium punch DP. That shit is really annoying. Her walk speed is really good. Her low forward is very fucking annoying. So I do think Sagat has a lot of damage. He has better pokes in general. It's just that she has a lot of very powerful priority pokes, like forward heavy kick Bancho. You know, she could do back heavy punch. Crouching heavy punch, my bad, for like buffers. She can do stand heavy punch now. It's a lot better because it's faster on startup. She can stand heavy kick, right? And it crush counters low shot, which I think is very stupid, but whatever. Yeah, so I think that matchup would be like evenish for sure. All right. So even, I would say Juri. Juri, I'd say evenish because her poke's not that great. You can anti her pretty easily, right? But when she gets V skill stocked, you have to be a little bit craftier with how you play. You have to play closer. You know, you gotta close the gap. But you can punish it. You can punish it hard body karate. A lot of the moves that are like abusable against fireballs, you can't really punish. So that's where things get annoying. But at least her, if you block her V skill, you can forward heavy kick punish on either side. All right. So it's well, not either side. It's only one side to it, right? But it's -17, so you can forward heavy kick and you can punish it pretty good. You can whiff punish her pretty well. If you see her do the V trigger into the fireball release, you can EXDP it, you could car it, you can knee over it, you could just, I commit to Tiger Knee as soon as I see it. Because you know, usually when they do fireball, they're doing something afterwards. They're moving. They don't give a fuck. Right? So I just knee right over that shit and I hit them right in the mouth. And if you space it right, who cares? If they block, you're still gonna be 0. Right? Or +1 now. Actually, it could be +1 on all the knees at worst. So this is gonna be a hot take, but I think Bison Sagat is even. I think Bison gets rushed down for one, right? So that's one thing. Also, the fireball buffs make Sagat very hard to V skill now because of how fast that shit is, right? You can keep Bison out of the air pretty easily, even if he has EX. Even if he tries to do the EX Stomp, if you block EX Stomp and delay stand heavy kick, you'll beat Devil Reverse on both sides. Because the hitbox is so fat on your stand heavy kick, and his hurt box is so wide that it's like, what ends up happening is this. So imagine this is Bison's hurt box, right? But his hitbox is like, I don't know, let's say his hitbox is like this or some shit, right? Sagat's stand heavy kick hitbox is like this, and then this part is green. It's like something like that, right? Okay, so your red would make contact with his green way before he would have the chance to really hit you out of yours. All right, so that's one of the things that I like to do, to just kind of keep him a little bit more tamed in the air. It doesn't stop him. You can still get hit by it, of course, guys. Like, we're human. You're not gonna always stop everything, and that's okay. But as long as you have a consistent solution, you can make things happen. Yeah, I think we just jump straight to this. So Dhalsim, you guys already know, slides underneath the fireball on reaction, slides underneath Tiger Knee. Very annoying pokes. I don't get consistent Oki like that. I gotta take a lot of risks on my Oki approaches. So the stability of the matchup is definitely in favor of Dhalsim. I don't care what anybody fucking says. Just because I beat Dhalsim players does not mean anything, okay? This matchup is pretty rough. It's possible though, but it's very hard. And then the V trigger 2 makes it so much more annoying, man, because it's like, if I fireball it and then he does the air flame over it, he resets the entire V trigger. So now you have to deal with the whole 5 hits of V trigger again, which I think is crazy. I don't even know why he can do that. Blarog, hate this matchup. Turnaround punch, V skill 1. Now those were already like annoying, right? But what made the matchup unbearable is the dash punch buffs. So now he could do medium and heavy, and they're -4. That shit is fucking annoying as fuck. For me to win this matchup, I have to be completely zen. If I am slightly irritated, I'm not winning this matchup. All right, it's just not happening. All right, so Hoji, I would put him here actually, because I said it might be slight disadvantage to Cody, but I can also see it being even. But I'll just put him here because for the sake of having slight disadvantage. I think he's the closest thing to that, because there's a disparity after this. It's like, it's too wide of a gap. Bison, I know this is crazy because people are like, what the fuck, Bison? But yeah, I think Sagat does really well against Bison. But anyways, so Blarog, dash punch, right? Because of that, like, now he's dash punching me from even further ranges, the ranges that I would play at to bait V skill. So now it's this annoying ass game of him using the dash punch, and I can't even really punish it. It makes me want to play closer, but if I play closer, now my fireball is not as great, because now he can react to my fireball easily. You know what I'm saying? This shit is horrible. Yes, no smoke. You could close your eyes and probably win this matchup against most Sagat players. Falk, hate this matchup. You guys already know her air to ground nonsense is foolishness. She can shoot underneath my fireballs. She has annoying pokes. I don't like this matchup. I've always hated this matchup. Honestly, the only way that this matchup can get saved is if Sagat gets a legitimate Tiger Knee that I can spam, because other than that, she doesn't really have anything to worry about in neutral. She just plays her game, and I'm at the mercy of her making mistakes. I can't really force her to make mistakes. It's very frustrating. If I could DP through her air fireball, then I'd say the matchup would be... I'd say... maybe even. But that, because it takes away... If you take away Sagat's anti-air game and his fireball game, and his pokes don't really mean anything, that shit is pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Okay? Menat, yeah, I don't really like this matchup, to be honest. One of those things, man, because she has so many ways to get around fireball, and then I already have to deal with very annoying pokes, right? She can get around the fireball, she can absorb it, build V meter, she can send it back to me, right? She can go underneath it with slide. She just has so many options. She can fireball, she can orb release and neutralize my fireball. It's very annoying. And then her pokes, you know, and Sagat doesn't really have the mobility. If he had better Tiger Knee game, I think this matchup could swing easily the other direction. But it's hard to make her consider anything when the Tiger Knee is so lackluster. Nash matchup is rough McGruff. Nash, as soon as he gets V-trigger, literally, it just reacts to fireball with 2 buttons, and he gets guaranteed crouching heavy punch damage combo from there, okay? Neutral, he can neutralize my fireball. He can absorb and get a 2-bar V-trigger that is anti-fireball as is. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. His mobility is hard to pin down. He's very mobile, so I can't really rely on Tiger Knees. I can't really rely on walking up and poking him because he's not in range. And then, you know, when I try to hit him and he's now out of range, now it's the threat of medium kick scythe, right? So it's a very frustrating matchup. It's hard to pin him down to keep Nash tamed. And then the V-trigger, once he gets V-trigger, man, I have to win without fireball, basically. So yeah, there's that. And he can V-trigger and dodge my Tiger Knee, which is very annoying. So he can dodge my Tiger Knee, end up behind me, and then punish me on the other side. So I can't even use that consistently. Okay, if I try to Kara and he V-triggers, he sees the Kara. He's going to be behind me before I'm even active. Poison, I still think this matchup is heavy disadvantage. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's pretty hard still. I think it's very possible, but the thing going for her is that she can annoy the shit out of me with her buttons and neutral. She could trade with my fireball, right? With her raid, but she can't rely on that like she used to because of the fireball buffs. And her raid does less damage. So the fireball buffs, her raid doing less damage, I have more health than her, so there is some hope at the end of the tunnel. Or the light at the end of the tunnel, rather. Her pokes are just fucking annoying. Her anti-fireball meter move, or EX Love Me Tender, is annoying as shit. Alright? I don't know why that move is that fast. I don't even know why it goes to projectiles when she already can combat projectiles. I don't understand that. And then let's not even begin to talk about the fact that she does mad damage and she has Oki. She has Oki, she does a lot of damage, and her V-trigger is absurd. Her V-trigger is ridiculous. Okay, so her comeback factor, I'm constantly having to just deal with this possibility of her being explosive. She's an explosive character, but she can zone me out, which is annoying somewhat. She can't rely on it, but when she has meter, it's easier for her to do it because she knows I'm gonna hesitate, essentially. Okay, so I have to track more things about their style of play than they do with me. So there's more things for me to mentally juggle, which is usually the case with Sagat, but sometimes it gets very overwhelming. Rashid, pretty annoying matchup. If it wasn't for the V-skill roll under, I would be like, alright, Sagat destroys him, right? But because Rashid can roll under the V-skill, Rashid can use V-skill to roll under the fireball, it's rough. Like, I have to rely on throwing a high shot, but high shot, I don't get fireball traps from that. You know what I'm saying? So it's risky to continuously throw it out there because I can get jumped in on. All right, it's pretty annoying. V-trigger 2, he gets even more. He gets additional anti-fireball shit, which I don't understand. He already has enough, but that's the name of the game, I guess. We're gonna give him more anti-fireball things. He can just EX eagle kick through my fireball, and then even if I bait it, he's not punishable on the other side. I know you guys seen that infamous clip the other day, right? With the EX DP going through his EX eagle kick. That's the type of shit that, you know, that happens in this matchup. All right, and then of course when he gets in on you, Street Fighter V. Sagat has one of the worst light button conversions in the game off of his crouch jab or his stand light punch, right? Because it's so specific, situational. Rashid is a character that you have to be able to like light interrupt in between and then capitalize. Otherwise, he just runs rampant like a gorilla and he doesn't give a shit. Okay, so it's very frustrating in that regard. So I definitely give that to Rashid. It's one of his worst matchups. Vega, I would put heavy disadvantage because Vega can V-skill, blows through my buttons, blows through my fireball, blows through my tiger knees. All three of them get destroyed by V-skill. So I have to wait. And if I wait, and if I'm not close enough, I get a measly ass stand heavy kick punish. If that. Sometimes I don't even get stand heavy kick. If you space it out, don't even make contact. He's far away. Okay? He's far as shit. So I want to be closer to him. But the issue is Vega's mobility. He is so fast. How do I get to the ranges that I want to play at so I can block his V-skill? It's just hard to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So Vega is... It's rough, man. It's rough. It's frustrating. It's possible, though, but it's a matchup where Sagat's toolset is completely neutralized. I have to just gamble in the hopes that the Vega player is going to take a risk based off of where I'm standing that will pay off in some sort of way. Vega's poke's hard to deal with, right? He has anti-fireball. If he jumps in at me, I can stop him. Even if he does like Barcelona, it's pretty easy to just DP him out of it. It's not hard. Rose, I think I would put this matchup at heavy disadvantage. I think this is a counter pick. I think that is a bad matchup for Sagat. Because of her soul release, the orb, that when she puts it out there, Sagat can't throw fireballs. If I throw a fireball, it explodes, and then now she can just kind of go crazy, right? She can slide underneath my fireballs, right? She has the jump air fireball to kind of throw off my DPs and stuff like that. It's pretty annoying. It's not as strong as Faults, but it's still something that I have to consider. And if I'm not on my A game, I'll miss my punishes against it. Her pokes are pretty good. So she has really good pokes that are cancelable, like her stand fierce, right? She has some good unique attacks, like back heavy kick. She has, really good pokes in general. And when she gets V-trigger, good luck trying to stop that, basically. All right. I mean, Viva Rush is going to be your best friend when she does have her V-trigger activated, but I don't think she needs V-trigger 1. I think V-trigger 2 is really good in the matchup. V-trigger 2, the fireball one. Yeah, that's the fireball one, I believe, right? But, yeah, I think that's the better V-trigger for her because she could just legit throw out fireball and just commit to a teleport. And then it's like a mix-up in neutral. Or if she knocks me down with the soul grab, right? Now she gets that mix-up afterwards, and it's kind of hell on earth for Sagat. Okay. So for these two, I just put unsure because I do feel like Sagat has some sort of advantage, but I just don't know how much advantage, so I left them at unsure. Oro, I know Sagat can definitely out-fireball him for the most part, but it's once he gets V-skill orb that shit can get very tricky. But yeah, it's probably not enough to justify like Oro has a shot in the matchup. Akira, she has really good pressure, and her V-trigger is really strong with Daigo. She has some good pokes. She does have a hard time getting around fireballs, but she has answers. She just has to be on point. I haven't played a high-level Akira yet, so I can't really say anything. So I'm just reserving judgment. Maybe that matchup is in Sagat's favor also. But so yeah, this is how I feel about Sagat. I would say he's probably like a high middle tier character based off of this. It's just that the issue with his high tier, the reason why it's hard to put him high tier is because he doesn't play Street Fighter V. So he doesn't get rewarded the same as other high mid-tier characters, like who can actually get Oki, but they lack shit in neutral. The game is mainly about being defensive because of the offense. That's what people don't realize. Like, they say the game is either very offensive or it's very defensive, but it's defensive because of the explosiveness of the offense, right? The potential shit that you can run into. I'd say Sagat, if he's gonna be top tier, all he needs is a mobility boost. Or better Oki off of his knockdowns, where he can actually play Street Fighter V. If he gets one of those two, or if he gets like a Tiger Knees, if he gets like abusable Tiger Knees, he's gonna shoot up the ranks. Automatically because the large part of his strategy that falters is making people consider things other than Fireball. That's the hardest thing, because people don't care. But if people cared about other shit, it would strengthen his Fireball significantly. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing that, like, it's kind of hard with him. And his learning curve is pretty steep, just in terms of, like, understanding these characters and Fireball chesses. It's a lot that goes into it. But, yeah. So that is my Sagat matchup review list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? Shout outs to the YouTubers that are going to be watching this. I hope you guys comment below and you like the video. Stop playing with me. Let me know what you think. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What else would you like to see on my channel? All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. My good old Twitch streamers. Let me know what you guys think.